Candidates, first-time candidates for the Miami City Council. I guess we'll be here maybe an hour to kind of present your thoughts.
Joe Sharbit.
Joe Sharbit running in Ward 4, and of course over here Neil Johnson, Ward 3. Incumbents Terry Atkinson and John Dulgar are, I guess the phrase is AWOL, or they had told the Miami Chamber of Commerce, who is sponsoring this debate, that they were busy or had other plans when they were invited in early February or late January. Thank you for coming on out, because, well, it's a nice evening. All right. Shall we start? Okay. Well, do you first want to tell folks a little bit about yourselves? Or do you want to do that at the end?
I'll do that at the end.
How about you, Joe?
I'll do it in the buzzer.
Okay. All right, here we are in Miami. What do you feel is the most pressing issue facing this city?
Me first?
Go right ahead.
Short term, I believe filling the position of city manager is foremost right now. And by the way, I don't want to forget, I think Tim Wilson's out there. I want to thank him for his service to the city. He's going to be missed. We have a lot of key projects ahead. The street projects we need to get started back on, get back on course.
We need somebody that's strong, someone that can work well with people, and ideally has experience in local, state, and federal issues. The other thing I agree with, is complete the streets. The streets, we're on a 3-year program on the project, and I believe we're 2 years into it. I think it's very important.
Now, when you want to hire a city manager, do you want somebody who is from or has familiarity with the area? Do you want a national job search? What do you think?
Oh, I would want to have someone that has experience, like I mentioned, with local, state, and federal. And I think it's very important to have experience. It don't necessarily need to be local. The best person for the job.
I would agree with that, and on our long term, I think we need to address our infrastructure. We had some issues with our water and sewer lines, as my citizens in Ward 3 experienced last weekend with the water line break. Those issues need to be addressed.
Economic growth. You go anywhere in this country and get this question, but we're going to localize it. What's the city's role in economic development?
Well, I believe the city's role is to work with all parties. I mean, the parties that we have here in our city is Mays, Chamber, different tribes, CBB, NEO. I mean, for example, what the work that Dr. Hill has done out here, and it's an outstanding job in building the community. I really believe that's working together, and the city needs to work with all aspects of those groups.
And I know one of you has experience in mining in the past.
My father did. I did.
All right. Well,
I agree with Joe on that. I think we also need to look at creating TIF districts, further economic development. I do agree with the city council's decision to hire retail attractions. This helps in the recruitment of our retail business. We do need a strong tax base to survive.
you know, this county and this area has lost population. And that factors in when you talk about economic development. How do you what are your thoughts? I mean, I saw the census figures in 2010. I live in Delaware County. There's been a loss of population here. How do you get them to stay here and come bring them back on the farm, as they might say?
Well, I think you just have to have a community that invites them to come here and that shows that they want people and that they have growth, economic growth, jobs, and people working together that makes an environment for them to want to come and live in this city, a city that I'm very proud of.
Neil?
I couldn't say that any better myself. That's a good response.
Okay. Let's see, recent city government decisions. I'm sure you've got some opinions and thoughts from the gut and from your head there? Joe?
Well, on the recent city government decisions, just one of the questions, name one you approve of. Of course, roads were one of them that's, I think, was a very good decision. And, you know, from working on the roads, getting a little bit behind, but I think the city's worked together. Tim and a number of the people here in the cities has looked at a different schedule to help move that along and to get and stay on track to get that project, keep that project on track and get it done. Very, very good decision.
Well, Neil, name one you approve of.
I also agree with Joe on that one. There's some come up here lately that I'm glad that's been corrected and been addressed, and the public input in our agenda. I'm glad that's back. Thank Mayor Ketchum for that. I think it's important for our citizens to be able to speak regardless of what they want to say. But I agree with Joe as far as the streets go.
Name something you disapprove of.
This one I want to apologize first. I get a little emotional when I talk about this. About a year ago, there was an issue of public salaries being published. And I don't know who the sponsor was of putting them on windshields and passing around town. That's not the proper place. I do agree that it needs to be public record and that can be found at City Hall. I just don't think it's good to, I think it's bad for our employees' morale. I think it's caused division amongst our employees, and I just don't see the good in it.
Joe, anything in particular you disapprove of here in the city?
Well, I was thinking about one more thing that I do approve of.
Go right ahead.
First, that is, I think the city's made a very good decision in working with the tribes and working with the federal government in pursuing funds to rebuild the city's street bridge, the Central Street Bridge, and that's just something, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars that those funds that can come in, that we can utilize that money on other stuff, infrastructure in the city. I think they've done a wonderful job on that, working on that. As far as the disapproval, something I disapprove of, it wasn't really an actual council decision, but it was something that happened with some of our senior citizens. It was a previous city manager that actually closed some restrooms over City Hall, and it was an issue for our senior citizens to use the restrooms, and I would have liked to see the council act a little quicker on that.
Why were they closed?
They were closed. They were closed, I think, because there were some threats. I'm not for sure on the whole story on that. They had closed some restrooms and said they could use some other ones, but they went ahead and got them opened back up for our senior citizens, which I thought was the right thing to do.